Okay.
Okay, I think we're ready. Mr. Eric, would you explain the rules? And Ms. Renee, would you be our... Oh, I didn't see you. Okay, never mind.
Wait a second, you guys.
I thought Kim was, I can't see who was
I
chair.
thought I missed one.
Oh, yeah. I didn't, the chair was like this, I couldn't see.
No problem.
Maybe when you can't.
She went to get it.
I'll read it, Eric, and then you can give me a little, okay? Okay, let's call to order. Item 24, we have an appeal filed by Tammy Warren of the Planning Commission's decision to approve case file 2206 HC 113 for a conditional use permit filed by Robert Heinrich for 419 Development Group LLC, requesting a conditional use permit to allow for 868 lot, single-family residential subdivision to be known as Patriot Ridge, phases 1 through 6 on 332 acres. Modifications to approved subdivision plans require a new conditional use permit for the Planning Commission. The property is currently zoned as R1 low density residential. The subject property is located at Highway 67 and 3 Rivers Road. The ad valorem tax parcel number is 100508.002.000, located Supervisors District 5. This is Mr. Eric Nolan who will explain the rules. Each side will have a chance to speak, and then Ms. Renee Wiggins in the back will be our timekeeper. And I believe it's 3 minutes?
It's 3 10-minute speakers.
3 10-minute speakers
Per
per each
side.
side. Okay, go ahead.
Both appellant and applicant are allowed 3 10-minute speakers. All exhibits have been marked and are already with the clerk. The appellant will be allowed a 5-minute rebuttal. Please address questions only to board members. Board will render its decision after the hearing is fully heard.
Okay, perfect. And we start with the appellate.
Ms. Martin, one thing before we go, I noticed the appeal letter says Tammy, sorry, I forgot the name.
Tammy Warren.
Tammy Warren, on behalf of other residents in the Walmart community, is filing an appeal. We don't have the identities of those other people, so one of two things is gonna happen. We're gonna have to either get a list so they become part of the record, or Ms. Warren will be the only appellant at this point in time. It's not really proper to file on behalf of other residents, but again, it's up to the board if they want to listen to others other than Ms. Warren. But we do need to get their names for the record. We have a court reporter here, we can probably just get them to stand up, or we can circulate a list so they can put their name and addresses for the record if they're going to be considered to be part of the appeal. If you don't want to be part of the appeal, you don't have to say anything. But if you want to be part of the appeal, we need a name and address of everyone. So I'm not sure how you want to handle it. Do you want to just circulate a pad?
We can do that, but you still only have 3 speakers.
Right, you still only have 3 speakers under the rules, but you only have 1 right now because you have
Just the
one
one,
appellant
which is
without
missing.
identifying anybody else.
Is Tammy Warren here?
It's right there.
Are you okay with adding more people, or you want to just do it yourself?
No, I'd like to add more people. We do have myself and 2 other speakers.
Okay, then the other 2 speakers definitely need to be on this list.
Yes,
Is
ma'am.
there, are they here?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, yes, sir.
I'm gonna pass this around?
Please.
I have one too, sure. Here's a pen.
I need a pen. I got a pencil.
Yeah, we need a pen.
Only put your name and address, and if you want to receive emails, you might want to put your email address. If you're, want to be an appellant listed on the appeal.
That is,
If
if
you
you're
don't want
on,
to, then you don't need to fill it out.
Hey, if you don't mind, write your name legible so that you can add it to the report. You hear that?
It won't go forward while they do
I
that.
got it, Sheriff.
Make sure you heard me.
On the rest of this, please.
May I ask a timekeeping question? So it is myself and two other speakers. Can we split that time as long as we don't go over the 30 minutes?
Yes, yes. Right now, you each get 10 minutes or a total of 30. If you speak 15, then the other two only get 7.5.
Got that. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Good, that'd be great. Just let me know when you're ready.
Okay, we're gonna start with the 10-minute. Please state your name, address for the record.
Okay. I want to read a statement. My name is Walt Warren at 18215 Fairway View Drive, Biloxi, 39532. At the September 6th board meeting, this proposed development was tabled to allow participants to provide guarantees on amenities, lot sizes, and other items. And the board stated that they needed guarantees in writing. And I've got that portion of the transcript of that YouTube video. I had it transcribed and I've entered it over here of that discussion between the supervisor and the developer, or the applicants. What the applicants have entered into the record since that Board of Supervisors meeting are drawings, an economic impact estimate dated 2022, and a list entitled Patriot Ridge Subdivision and additional contingencies by the developer since 2022. That is already in the record. They entered that after the meeting. The applicants have not provided any guarantees in writing from the builder that we've been made aware of or that have been entered into the record. We feel that any guarantees that were requested should have been provided by the builder, not the present owner or applicants. The applicants have not provided the board with what they asked for, and therefore we ask that the request by the applicants not be considered for approval. What the applicants did submit is very interesting. In these documents, they allege that there was no objection to the original zoning and use permit. That is false. In the material they provided, they give a glimpse into what they intend to develop. The economic impact of Patriot Ridge document, which you have in the record, completed in December of 2022 states, and I quote, "When complete, the development would include 1,156 homes, period, close quote." That's a far cry from the original plans and use permit for 230 homes. Matter of fact, it's 5 times the amount. In prior meetings, the applicants have accused this group of residents who signed that sheet, who reside in the surrounding area, and they're not all at Dogwood Hills, they're all around there, has been alleged by the applicants, of being in fear of growth and development. We're not in fear of well thought out and properly planned development. We are concerned about the type of growth and development that this applicant has proposed and planned. This development, when completed, will have a population size larger than most small cities and towns in Mississippi. With this number of people brings with it many concerns such as a dangerous rise in traffic, crime, strain on police and fire protection, schools, and services. And these issues will bring a loss in value to our property, and it will also have a negative impact on our way of life and irreparably harm the character of our neighborhood. The applicants have stated a number of times that there's a 4-lane road and a sewer system, so that should take care of any concerns that we have. Common sense would tell you that this is wrong, just as common sense would tell you that if you use simple math to figure the traffic on the proposed 1,156 homes, there will be a minimum of 4,000 to 5,000 vehicle count coming in and out of this proposed development daily into what are already dangerous intersections at Highway 67 and Fairway View Drive and Highway 67 and Three Rivers Road. And keep in mind that St. Patrick High School uses the entrance at 67 also. As far as the original change in zoning on this property is concerned, we feel like the process was tainted to some degree. As noted earlier, contrary to what the applicants would have the Board of Supervisors believe, there were objections made to the zoning change, and one of those objectors, and his name is Homer Mayo, had photographs of the dirt pit as well as video of the conditions of the property. These photographs and video were sent to the zoning office. We have the emails and the media, and they're entered at the office and also here today. they were sent. And when we did the initial review on the case file for the prior meetings and subsequent meetings, these photographs and videos were not in the case file. We provided these to the zoning office. We understand that these items were not in the information for the Board of Supervisors to review before they made the approval and then on the initial zoning. We also obtained the transcript of the complete initial zoning meeting, which we've entered in over here. And at that meeting, the items were provided for viewing and they were discussed. So we know the zoning commission, Patrick Bonk, and the applicant knew of these items and the alleged conditions. Later, this property was rezoned via consent along with 2 to 3 other small parcels of property. And we feel that the change in zoning on this parcel of land went against the character of the surrounding neighborhoods and there was no public need for it. There's also the matter of the land use description of this parcel of land as it is noted in the comprehensive plan. The entire parcel of land is noted as a restrictive growth. For some reason, the zoning commission and the applicants feel a 4-lane highway and a water and sewer that are now available removes the restrictive growth title. We believe that this parcel of land was most likely deemed restrictive growth due to there being a known active dirt pit, wetlands, and potential for protected species of plants and animals to be located on the property. There also seems to be some misunderstanding about the subject property, mainly the dirt pit and the proposed lake that has been discussed during this process. There's been no discussion of the elevation of the property. If you look over here at this map, you'll see it. And maybe that's because the applicant has admitted themselves that it's a bowl. The applicant has stated about the dirt pit, it's going to be regraded and bladed out, and we're going to regrade it, and that's where it's going to be buildable. From the frontage of the property, as you can see, along Highway 67, there's approximately 75-foot drop in elevation as you go south into the property. In the middle of the property, at its lowest point, there's about a 100-foot drop from that front elevation. Just before the start of the tree line in the south end of the dirt pit, there's an approximate 80 to 90-foot drop in elevation from the frontage along 67. And what's interesting is the wooded area south of the dirt pit, which appears to be wetlands, is actually 30 to 40 feet above the dirt pit nearby. The dirt pit appears to be well over 100 acres. Based on the plans that have been provided, homes will be constructed on this dirt pit where one of the objectors, Mr. Mayo, at the original zoning meeting provided photos and videos showing the concrete slab, debris, trees, PVC, plastics that have been hauled in and the old dirt pit and buried. There's also been the misconception that all of the old dirt pit is going to be made into a lake and that houses will be built around it. Based on what we have seen in the plans and the testimony about the project, that would not be accurate. During the discussion that the Board of Supervisors had with the applicant on September 6, 2022 meeting, a supervisor asked the applicants, around the lake, and I quote, around the lake, which is the dirt pit that's going to be the lake, end quote, and the response was yes. And that's in that transcript that was done. There's also been a question about a swimming pool being one of the amenities, and the applicant's response was, end quote, and that's over there too. The pool part, I can't really answer that. I think that is probably in the mix, but I don't know that for certain, end quote. Then just seconds later, the applicant responded, open quote, all right, period. There is a pool there, close quote. One of the documents the applicant put into the record after the Board of Supervisors meeting is a drawing that has 2 pools and a lazy river. Obviously, it is easier to put something on a drawing than it is to actually provide a written guarantee that something will be done. And if you only have to draw a picture to make it so, then while you're at it, you can add more than double of what you reluctantly committed to in the prior meeting. On the list entitled Patriot Ridge Subdivision, there are no pools noted under the area where amenities are discussed. Under the section Additional Contingencies from the developer since 2022, it is noted under item number 2 examples of proposed amenities, clubhouse, adult, and kiddie pools. And I will remind you that the definition of a contingency is an event that may occur but is not likely or intended. Have you ever seen a drawing of the map of the acreage of the dirt pit? Have you ever seen a drawing of the acreage of the proposed lake? Have you ever seen or heard the total acreage of wetlands on this tract of land? Have you ever seen an elevation map of that property? You probably haven't, because just like the photos in the video in the initial zoning meeting that were not in the case file, if you had seen these, you, the Board of Supervisors, would have most likely had more questions and the applicants would have had to provide more answers.
Mr. Walt, excuse me
Yes,
one
ma'am.
minute. That was 10 minutes, and we're gonna restart the clock, okay?
Okay, and then
You can talk the whole 30 minutes if you want to. it's
If
up
you
to
like-
Ms. Tammy, so.
if you think these items,
If you do that, you're gonna take the other applicant's time. So
That's
Yeah,
fine.
that's it.
Just making
She's
sure.
aware.
if you think these items and information are important, ask them today. See what their answers are. I have no problem with them entering that new evidence. If the comprehensive plan, which, by the way, depending on who you are using the data through this process, applicant or resident, it's either too old to use or it's just fine to use. 1404.1 states that sound planning judgment is required. And I know that Eric has brought up discussion about a new comprehensive plan, and I guarantee you, sound planning judgment will most likely be at the top of that new comprehensive plan. Here are the elevations on the map, and then I'm gonna play you a flyover, and then Isaac Hutchins is gonna come up. This is from 67, going over the property. That's old dirt pit that's been dug out there that's green now. You can tell by the elevation. And if you'll look along that left side, you'll see where it has been dug down over the years. And that's the bowl that has been discussed. And there's one other piece of that which Isaac will hit later on. And one other thing, this is a list of 17 names of people who live in the area, their addresses and their names that are not here today, that wish to be here today, but they couldn't because of work or some other issue that they had going on. And I don't know who to give that to, but there it is.
Add that to the list that we're circulating on, if you would.
Yes, sir.
Put it together so it doesn't get lost.
Go ahead.
State your name and address.
Yes, ma'am, it's Isaac
I'm
Hutchins.
sorry, can I ask a question? The
Stop it.
videos you put in are part of the record for the planning commission?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just making sure.
Okay, start.
I'm sorry, so this is Isaac Hutchins, 18257 Fairway View Drive. I'd like to thank y'all for having us here today. We wanted to start with this slide right here, just so that you can kind of get an idea of how this is framed. Here we have White Star Road down here that frames it to the south, and we have Road 510 over here to the east. If you compare that, one of the reasons that's important is that we feel that this property is mischaracterized in the conditional use permit before you today. It states under 1404.03.03 that it should be noted that the area is within the urban limits as identified by the Gulf Regional Planning Commission. Here we can see White Star Road is here to the south. 510 is over here to the east. This is the urban limits region right here. It's clearly not in the urban limits region, so this is a false statement on the application before you. It also states that the plan, which serves as a future land use plan, identifies the property partly within the controlled growth sector. And this sector is described and consists of locations where development is encouraged. Please note the gray here. I'm sorry, let me get back here. The gray that you see, this is an indication of G1, which is actually a restricted growth sector. All of the property that is being developed is located in restricted growth. There's not an inch of it that we're aware of that is in the controlled growth sector. Again, you can see right here how it's framed out, this little triangle. And that was the future land use permit. Now, as you all are well aware, this was done under the land use conflict identification strategy analysis. which was intended to determine whether, because much of the area may not be suitable for development, and they wanted to identify the undeveloped land that is most suitable for development. So this analysis was conducted. Now, we're not quite 100% certain as to why this was considered to be restricted growth, but it's possible that, as Mr. Walt said, or perhaps likely, that it's because of the wetland habitat that's present on the property. These photos were all taken from subject property. These are all gopher tortoises that are there. Also, it could be because the land was a dirt pit. It was an active dirt pit. We can see here, this is what Mr. Mayo was here, the evidence that was presented at the initial meeting. This is his statement. He says they're filling it in. All this right here was the first part they filled. They're backfilling all this right here. I know it's going to be down the road when those houses start settling and all that stuff starts rotting in the ground. I work for the road department. I see it all the time where subdivisions get in, debris gets buried in the road, and then down the road they pave it. Our 2 years is up on our, the contractor's taking it up, the county takes it over, and then the county has to deal with all the roads after that. So it's possible that despite the vast drops in elevation that we saw today, that it looked even starker back whenever this land use permit was, back whenever that land use study was performed. Here's some of the other photos, and all this is in the record, so you can consult all these photos. This is the concrete that was being hauled in and covered up. This was submitted by Mr. Mayo. The tree limbs and stumps that were hauled in and covered up. The trees that were being burned and disposed of. He lives adjacent to this property, so it was easy for him to obtain these pictures. The concrete stumps. Yes, ma'am.
Was this a disposal site during or after Katrina?
No, not that I'm aware of, no ma'am. I mean, as far as I know, he said this happened actually not too long ago. He said this happened just before the property was acquired by 419.
But you did mention that it was burned.
This is what Mr. Mayo has submitted to the record. I can't speak to exactly why that took the shape that it did. He says it's being burned and disposed of. He put that caption on the picture.
Being burned?
So I'm just,
Okay.
yes ma'am, burned and disposed of. He's saying it's being burned, pushed in, then covered up into the pit.
Okay. Renee?
He also has plastic PVC and stumps being buried.
He didn't have a permit.
No rubbish permit. Mr. Bont mentions that. He says there's no rubbish permit on the property. In the meeting minutes from the initial zoning hearing, where the conditional use permit was attached that had 212 homes. So that is mentioned in that first meeting on September 16, 2021.
They have to have a burn permit. They have to have a permit for any type of debris.
So I'm not aware if the law was followed there. Well, I'm just showing you what pictures we have as evidence on the property. So if that is evidence of illegal activity there, that's something for the board to perhaps investigate. I can't speak to that.
Eric, did you check with DEQ to see if there was any permit pulled for debris or anything in that area?
Well, in the previous hearings, they didn't have a license for a rubbish pit, so there shouldn't have been any debris brought on the site.
Okay. Just keep that in mind, Mr., when your witness starts to talk.
Yes, ma'am. So here, we just wanted to show this so that we can see some of the inconsistencies that we've observed as this has been transitioning through the different stages. Mr. Heimer stated on September 16, 2021 at the Harrison County zoning meeting, he says, I'm going to be very honest with you. It's very different than most developments you normally see. We're not just going to try and cram in as many house tops as we can on this piece of property. Now that parcel was the one that was approved where the subject lake was proposed to indicate that it perhaps is the entire dirt pit and the homes are going to be built around it. It's 212 homes at that time. Mr. Heinrich at our last meeting actually made the statement, we're trying to make this a marketable development and we need every inch of the property that we can have to have these lots out there. September 16, 2021, again, that's that initial meeting. We see Mr. Bond verified that the total acreage is 423 acres. He had the lots been increased to 80 foot wide, 212 lots. We had 212 lots, 80 foot wide on 423 acres. At our last meeting, the conditional use permit is being submitted to allow for an 868 lot development, 6 phases on 332 acres of land. And they also submitted an additional document that gave us an indication of what they intend for the R2, the additional zoning. And that's going to be 1,156 homes on 1,156 homes total, with 870 detached single-family homes. And all this is from either meeting minutes or exhibits that have been submitted. This is an indication. We wanted to make this point. This is one of the artifacts that have been submitted by the applicant. This is Highway 67, where they actually are able to access northbound and southbound. And this has been somewhat interesting how this is kind of taken shape, because Mr. Heinrich makes an assertion here. He says, here's a crossover right there. There's no more of that on 67, but it's right there. Access on 67, a crossover right there. The company that was hauling dirt in and out of that used that until they couldn't use that anymore. Now, Mr. Heinrich states that they used this ingress and egress when they were a dirt company to haul dirt in and out. This right here is a driveway that belongs to Ms. Leuenberger, who has signed an affidavit. She's owned this property since 1985, and she said that this has never been used, to her knowledge, by the dirt company that previously owned it. Mr. Heinrich, as you can see, this is her driveway right here. What access does she have to her driveway? It's completely precluded her from being able to access 67 using the existing driveway that has been there since 1985. Mr. Heinrich, in response to this at the meeting when it was brought up, he said, there's a comment about this lady that lives right there. She wants to make sure her driveway doesn't get messed up by it. We're not going to block anybody off. We're not here to do that. We'll make sure that she has access to her property just like she has right now. Well, if that's true, then this entrance that's being proposed cannot take shape in its current form. We also would like to note that Mr. Heinrich, at the last Board of Supervisors meeting, the last time he stood before you with this case at hand, he made a statement saying the planning department asked me for a 15-foot buffer on the east side of the property line. I spoke to my client, he said give him 30. On this whole east side, we're going to give him 30. At the last Harrison County zoning meeting we had in September, Mr. Heinrich said this additional buffer will not only reduce lot count, additional lot count, will affect the purpose of having larger lots. So you can see that this right here is how it was originally proposed. Looks very similar to this right here. The only change is that the buffer now just takes up the lots. There's 78 lots that butt up on the east side. And Mr. Heinrich just said that what we're going to do, we're assuming, is just not clear the back 50 feet of these lots. And let that serve as a buffer zone. When that was brought up to Mr. Jones, he said, well, that is actually better than the federal government with the wetland situation. He said, because the homeowners association will better police that than the federal government does the wetlands.
Okay, excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
That's another 10 minutes. Would you like to continue?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Tam has indicated. If I could just get a notification when we have 3 minutes left, that'd be much appreciated.
Well, there's 3 minutes left.
5 minutes left.
5 minutes left, I'm sorry. So 5 minutes left
5
would be
minutes.
great. Thank you. Let's see. We just wanted to point out that before this, this is in a G1 sector, and it was zoned as A1 and E1. The original special conditional use permit that was submitted, again, was for 212 homes that was going to be built on this site. And it was E1 and A1, according to the community plan for Eastern Harrison County, this would not have been in like and kind with the surrounding community or was originally intended for that parcel. Here's Mr. Mayo's video, and this is where he describes the property. I'm sorry, the audio is somewhat important here. Well, that's all right. I'm sorry. I guess we'll just have to skip that. But it's here if you need to consult it. Perhaps we can get some audio at a later point.
This is where they're wanting to put the houses, down in this valley, which used to be a pit. If you can look over there and see all that, what looks like little hills, that's all trash dirt that's been hauled back in here recently. And then all this down here, it was dug out a lot deeper, and all that trash, dirt, and limbs and concrete, they haul back in and cover it up underneath this where they're wanting to build the houses. And if you look straight back over there, if you can see, it's where they're burning them logs of the picture I showed you. All that's been going down in here too. So all that is up underneath this right here.
What year was this done?
As far as I know, 2011. I'm sorry, not 2000. I'm sorry, 2021. Is that
Well, the date of the zoning meeting is around the time that he did that video, the initial zoning meeting.
What year?
What
That'd be
year?
2021, correct? September of 2021.
Eric, do you have,
Hang on a minute.
I'm sorry.
Hold on.
You have to
Renee,
stop
where are
it.
we at?
I'm sorry, I had to ask a question.
8:30. All right, she's got to stop. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Eric, did
I just
you,
wanna make sure.
do the take pictures of all the flyovers? in up to 21?
I do have some imagery from 03 to 24 that I can load up if you want.
September 16th, 2021.
Okay, and you, okay. We may need that.
Just tell me when you need it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Renee, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. And these are other pictures that Mr. Mayo submitted for the record. Here you can see the dozer tracks that are on the property showing this being pushed down. This right here is the cliff, so you can see how steep this drop is. And I believe this is the road that's going to be coming in on the main entrance that you saw on that drive. That's where that road's supposed to end up butting adjacent. Here's the lake. This is just pictures of the property to give you the scope for it. This right here is an overview. This right here is Ms. Lewinberger's driveway, right here, that angles back to her house. This is where he's talking about coming in and establishing the entrance to the community, building the fountains and all of those features. This is the current drainage on the property. You can see that it's likely to have issues. We can assume that because of the shape of this property that it's going to have drainage issues that are going to have serious mitigation. This right here again is another big drop that you saw as well. Okay, and I think that this is a good time to hand it over to Ms. Tammy.
But I'm gonna touch on a couple of things that I think are very, very important here. One is you see this lake back here. This is an existing lake. Homer Mayo, in that meeting, in that transcript, they have a long talk about how much fish are in that lake and a debate about it. But the one thing that is not debatable is that this flyover in that picture was done right in the middle of this drought. I've got a lake by my house that I have to drive by, and it's almost empty right now. Mayo says that this will not drain, that it continues to fill up, but that's not where the lake that they have proposed on their plans is located. It is, they say that they're gonna remediate that lake, and they're gonna put their lake, this lake that we talked about was gonna be in the entire complex. Here's one right here. There's no lake down here where that lake's at. This is the front of the property. That's phase one. And if I'm
Is
incorrect,
that like spring fed?
we don't know. We were told by an older lady who lived there that they dug it down, dug all the dirt, and water started coming out.
Yeah.
And they never could get it to stop. And I think, I was gonna give you one more picture of that. If we can. They were digging dirt on or around the date of the zoning meeting, and we believe that was the last cut they made. But if you will see in the, see how this drops? That was the start. That's what the initial land apparently, that was the level. And it has been dug out for years and years and years. And
Okay, Ms. Tammy, give your name and address.
Tammy
You got
Warren.
5 minutes and 42 seconds.
Tammy Warren, 18215 Fairway View Drive, Biloxi, Mississippi. At the last Planning Commission meeting on September 21st, 2023, there was a sign-in sheet of about 70 attendants that were opposed to this development as well. Today, we provided 17 names of people that could not be here, and of course, you can see behind me, there's a good number of people here that also oppose this. One thing that's been obvious throughout this process is that the applicants, which we understand are working on behalf of the present owner of the property, are making guarantees to bind the future owner of the property, which we understand will be the builder of the development. It should be obvious to all those involved in this process that any guarantees given by the applicants, Mr. Heinrich and Mr. Jones, will be impossible to enforce because there will be a new owner of the property, which will be the builder that they refer to. Now, if they in fact represent the builder as was alleged in the last Board of Supervisors meeting in the exchange with the board attorney, then the applicants would and should have exposure and share in the responsibility of any negative potential issues that may arise in the future related to this use of this property for the building of this proposed development. This property has been referred to by Mr. Heinrich as an eyesore, and in my almost 30 years of living in this area, that is not an eyesore. It's a beautiful drive along 67 right there with the tree lines, and you wouldn't even know that there was a dirt pit there unless you did an aerial view over the tree lines. We ask that sound planning judgment be used in any future development on this property. We ask that the Board of Supervisors not approve this development. We feel that there are enough issues that occurred during the zoning change phase that the board could remand this back to zoning and start over with the original zoning of the property. In the lease, we would ask that Board of Supervisors to limit development on this property to the original number of homes that they requested in the initial use permit, which was less than 230 for the entire tract of land, using only the safely and buildable land.
You got 3 more minutes. Okay. Okay, that's our 3
Well, you're
speakers.
gonna take it.
Okay, go ahead.
We're good.
You sure? Okay, then, now we will move to the applicant side. Same rules apply. You can have 3 speakers, 10 minutes each. One can take the whole 30 minutes. Give your name and address, please, for the record.
My name is Bobby Heinrich, 1806 23rd Avenue here in Gulfport. And
Before he starts, I'd like to make a point for the record. I'm Malcolm Jones, 831 East St. Drive, Pastor Chan for the developer. To start with, I agree with Mr. Holloman. I don't believe that someone can go ahead and make a notice to appeal a decision and then add other people in after the fact. So to make a record, so in case this case goes up to the court, we would formally object to anyone else trying to join in the appeal at this point.
Speak up, Mr. Jones, but that is duly noted.
I think the board, if
Speak
these
up,
folks
please.
may take the time to come to the meeting, they're not speaking, they want to be made part of the record, the board should allow that. If the circuit court determines that they're not parties, you still have one party that will be an appellate.
I
I'm
agree.
trying to get them to be allowed to speak. If it goes to the circuit court, they, in my opinion, have a right to make themselves part of the record, which is all we did.
I understand.
I'm sorry, but we can't hear in the
Duly
back.
noted.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My
Please
opinion is
speak
y'all
up.
should be allowed to be made part of the record. You may not speak
Right.
on appeal, or you may not speak at the circuit court, but since you're here, you should be noted and put in the record. That's my recommendation to the board.
Okay, thank you.
And we have put the list
We have the list.
of the 17 who couldn't appear, and also the list of the people that are here today that voice opposition.
Perfect.
In your zoning ordinance, there's a process and a procedure that if you want to appeal the decision, you have to do so in writing. That person has to do so by a certain date. That didn't happen. So I'm making this objection for the record, not to stop what we're doing now. Second, I want to go ahead and object to all of the information that was submitted that was not presented to the Planning Commission before. It will be clear from the record as to what was put in the record before. There are certain photographs and analysis that was presented here that was not presented to the Planning Commission before. I'm making these objections so that we can have this for review at a later date if necessary.
The
Thank
appeal
you.
is based on the record from the planning commission.
Correct.
By ordinance, so
That was his point.
I'm just making sure we're clear on
Duly noted.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Go ahead.
all right, Bobby Heinrich, 1806 23rd Avenue in Gulfport. I just want to comment on a couple of the things that were presented to you today that I need to address to you more clearly. This is a dirt pit. We're here for a conditional use approval to allow what's in the ordinance, the subdivision ordinance, the number of lots that's in the charts that are allowed in an R1 zone. Okay, I've been through here, we're going on about 2 years now for this project. And so we've gone back and forth and back and forth. So a lot of things change, a lot of things get said. I did write up every time we've done something different, I've written it up to where we can have it in writing and present it, and I'll submit it again if if need be, which I will do that. Just to go over some things that that I need to correct here about the impact study. We were asked to do an impact study. Developers wouldn't be doing this if there wasn't a need for housing. This is a newly area that's got utilities that are being constructed as we speak. We've already been in contact with the ECUA, and so there's plans for utilities, and we have that addressed. We have it in a letter that's been presented. The 1,156 lots that you're talking about includes a townhome development that's off to the east off of Three Rivers Road. It has nothing to do with this single family. This is just the R1 zoning for right now, which is 868 lots.
Which is what phase?
Ma'am?
What phases?
Well,
Is it
we're
all
doing
5 or on this one?
868 lots in 6 phases.
6 phases.
Yes, ma'am. We submitted the amenities. I mean, this is a conditional use. I don't have engineered permitted drawings. This is what we're stating that we're gonna present in this project. And we were asked to put that in writing, and I feel like that's what this does. We're putting it in writing, it's on the record. I'm not gonna say that one. Let's see. Okay, we're here, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just we're here for conditional use approval. We're reclaiming a dirt pit, okay? We know there's trash out there. When we bought it, there was trash out there. The applicant lives in Naples, Florida, or that's where he lives, okay? He bought this property, he has other properties here in Harrison County that he's developing. So it's as is. I've gone out there to try to catch fish in that pond and caught one yet. But anyway, no engineering has been done. There's trash out there. We know that. A home builder is not going to build houses on top of trash. We will do the studies, the soil borings, anything it takes to make sure that these meet the current building codes. This land will be mass graded with scrapers. We're just going to go level the whole place out, and we'll deal with that. That's part of the engineering process if we get past this conditional use approval. A lot of things that were mentioned, well, with these pictures, that all had to do with zoning. We rezoned this property. A lot of that stuff for the growth sector and all, there was no utilities out there at that time. There's been a lot of changes in this area, which that's the reason we had this property rezoned. So a lot of that information is really not part of this conditional use hearing, except for the fact that we have utilities out there to tie this development into. The entrance, we've kicked that back and forth. We know that that entrance right there, that's in the MDOT right-of-way right there. It's a paved driveway. Yeah, it's been accessed for the resident there for a lot of years, but we're not going to block her off. I've got a drawing here. It's a sketch that I presented at one time, but when we moved this over, I can show you this. We're not going to block that neighbor off. You can see the dashed line right there where the driveway is right now, and it makes a curve right in there. I can take this whole entrance and move it completely away from
Now,
there.
do you have approval from MDOT to?
Yes, ma'am. We have access at that point. I've got an email that I've sent, and I've submitted it to the Planning Commission stating that we have an access point there. So anyway, we're not, if I have to, we'll leave that there. We'll come off our entrance there. We'll move over to the west and bring our entrance in. This is a preliminary drawing of that entrance, but we do have access there.
I'm sorry, are you talking about the road? That's not private.
No,
No.
it's in the easement.
This drive is directly across from the
Okay.
crossover right there. That dashed line is the driveway. And then we'll,
It's not private, it's on your property. Is it?
It's on MDOT.
Or it's MDOT's property?
there's a little knockout right there. And she's able to get in. That's our access point right there. We can go right through there.
Okay.
And just like the
I don't
neighbor
want to
can.
take up his time,
If you can go back to that lake, I don't know how to get to that. That lake has been there. That lake's always there. That's the same original lake. It's not down below.
That's like,
That lake is not gonna move, and we're not putting another lake there. We're gonna grade all this out around that lake, and that's gonna be part of our detention. That lake is a beautiful lake. So why destroy that? So it's not down here where it was pointed out. It's exactly where it is. That lake is not moved. It says existing lake. So, let me make
What
that
about the
point.
dirt pit?
Ma'am,
The dirt pit,
to the right, to the left there,
is it already, yes. That,
see how that's
we
graded
had
off
a
to the,
hole there, there's just a hole.
right, but this is higher in elevation here, that if the dirt company would continue to go, it would just go all the way to Highway 67. There's plenty of dirt there to level this property off. And that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna mass grade this property. And any concrete or trees or whatever that's out there, that's all gonna be brought up. I mean, it'll be taken out. We're not gonna leave that kind of stuff in the ground. As far as buried out there, I have no idea.
But you bought it, you're responsible for it.
We're responsible, that's exactly right.
Sure.
Making promises to the Board of Supervisors and the Planning Commission. I mean, I've done this for almost 30 years now, I hate to say that, but we put it on the record that we're gonna add these. I've got it all in our conceptual drawings here, which that's, you know, these are hand drawing, color renderings, so that people can see what this development will look like at the end of the day. I'm gonna toss it over to Malcolm.
Hold on a minute, Renee. So before you leave, Mr. Bobby, Ms. Rocco, what are the conditions on your list, and see if he's met those?
Well, of course, I was thinking that possibly a compromise would be always on the books. I would want, we have contingencies there, it is a conditional use permit, so, but I do have questions about all the others, so we may have to table it just so I can get answers to all these questions. But they may be able to answer today, we'll see. But, define the amenities that you're going to have, such as the pool, and there won't be contingency, this will be in one of the conditions, all the amenities, the pool, the clubhouse, and all the water features and the lakes that you mentioned. The maintenance and operation, including the training of board members and employees of the HOA, will be contracted by Horton Homes and will be in place until the last 3 years after the last home is built in the final phase of the Patriot Ridge. The HOA is responsible for not only, and not limited to, the management of all the amenities, landscaping, entranceways, and water features. Number 2, there will be a 30-foot buffer around the entire development with a 20-foot setback for the yards in the backyards. What this is, I'm not sure that we can do this, but anything that is done commercial, we would like to talk to the buyers and the developers of the commercial property. And that, as I said, may not be possible according to legal. The dirt pit will be relined and used as an amenity or water feature. There will be a variation in architecture in the homes, no cookie cutting. Number 6, they will build out, if the build out is not completed by a set time that is determined, say 5 years, then Horton Homes must appear before the Board of Supervisors and zoning to make sure that none of the codes have changed, etc. Because we have other subdivisions that have created an immense amount of problems because we have changed our zoning. People have changed the landscape of the whole process. So waiting 20 years to build out is it's too long. And you can't, without coming back to the board and making sure that everything you're doing is going to be in accordance with current.
If you started building this tomorrow, what would be the completion date for all 6 phases?
We discussed and agreed upon a 5-year date, as Mr. Flacco brought up. And if it was longer than 5 years, we'd have to come back and ask to renew.
Those are some of my concerns, because, and this is I'm not being derogatory toward any developers, but there's a trust problem here, and it's evident. So I know that you have to get approval by the state highway department to make it in-ways and out. I know that, everything's got to, DEQ has to approve it, the Fish and Wildlife has to approve it. There's a lot more hoops than you have to go through. But 800 homes is a lot. We've never done this before. And I just need more, I need more concrete. This is spread on the minutes now. So this would be what I absolutely would demand and hope that the board would go along with. But that being said, that is some of the things that I've been working on.
Okay, now, if you will, we'll go back and let you finish your presentation. But we wanted to read these so it would be part of the official minutes.
Right.
The board votes on.
Yeah, is there
Start in
anything
your
in
second
the
10
conditions?
I'm okay with every one of
Yeah,
those.
every condition that you've raised,
And if you don't,
Yeah.
if you don't do it, we can
okay, I
go
understand.
legally
Yes.
and shut it down.
I understand.
Legally
Ms.
shut it down
Rocco,
completely.
Let me make sure, so y'all understand, I know you do. In 5 years, you would have to come back and seek renewal of your conditional use permit, or you would lose the right to proceed forward if you have not done it. And that would include bringing it up to compliance with any current codes that have changed in that interim 5 years.
We're aware.
And I would also ask that any of this that we agree on, whether we agree or not, would be a meeting to clean up all my language. I'm not an attorney, and I get a little nervous when it starts talking about law and lasting and what I'm gonna leave behind. But there is economic development here. But there is also some new information that it's the first time I've seen it. And I don't know if we have all the answers to it, Eric. Do we have all the answers to our attorney to some of these, I'm gonna call them accusations because I don't know if they're concrete, forgive me for that. But they're important, and I'd like to know about them and what the remedy would be for any of it.
Before he answers, may I address it?
Let him-
Would you
Okay,
mind?
I'm sorry.
Would you mind? if I
Renee.
address
Oh,
that?
please.
Yeah, and if it doesn't cover it, then I'm sure
Okay.
Mr. Nolan
Go
or
ahead.
somebody else
I'm
will.
sorry.
Okay.
Speak
We
up,
got
please.
20 more
Yeah.
minutes.
Speak up so
So-
the crowd can hear you.
Did y'all hear me? I was
Yes.
We can't
barely.
we can barely hear anything.
All right.
Go ahead, speak
Y'all
loud.
are talking to a room of 50 people, you need to project.
Well, they're really talking to the board, but y'all
Right.
need to speak loud enough so the audience can hear you, please.
Okay, so to begin with, this property was rezoned quite a period of time ago, and it sounds like that some of the objectors would like to go back and turn that back. Well, that decision is done and over with, and the time to appeal from that is long since passed. So we are not here to ask to rezone the property. It is already zoned to allow this type of development. That's number one. Number two is that all of the conditions that you raised, we were already aware of from previous discussions that these would be conditions, and we've talked to the developer, and they're willing to commit to all of those conditions. Now, we are not here today to talk about the commercial development, because that's at a different time. And we will have to come back, as I recall, for the R2 development, which is not here today, but that's something else. So one of the things that I have in my notes that was brought up is we went ahead and we changed the lot configuration to go ahead and to try to meet the requirements. You know, the board has changed its view about what lot sizes they want, so we went to increase the lots to 65 foot a third, 70 foot a third, and then 75 foot a third. And so the idea was to go ahead and have a mix of lot sizes as you have requested us to do, so it will not be cookie cutter, it will not be the same. if you'll look at what we have laid out, which is in the colored picture, this is gonna be a subdivision that's gonna be unlike a lot of subdivisions you've seen before. There are gonna be some very expensive amenities that's gonna be part of this subdivision that will be built and part of the phases of construction. So they asked about guarantees in the record. I don't know how to make any more guarantees than making a condition for approval of the conditional use. If it's in there, then you have to do it. That's plain and simple. They talk about the fact that it's in the restricted growth sector, as if something like that means that you can't build anything. Well, if you dig deep into the comprehensive plan, it tells you that if there are utilities that are brought to the area, then you can go ahead and do a residential development. There is in fact water already out there. The Harrison County Utility Authority in their will serve letter says they are building a lift station out there to serve this area and surrounding area.
So restricted, which was zoning, was when I first got elected 24 years ago.
They can't hear you.
Can't hear me? I'm sorry. Usually everybody can hear me, I have a big old mouth.
No, we can't hear you.
Go ahead, Ms.
Well, you're
Lockhart.
deaf though.
Go ahead, Ms. Lockhart.
But 24 years ago, zoning went into effect, and many of the areas that we had zoned did not have water and sewer.
Correct.
So let me understand that that is what was meant by that there was no restricted areas, had no water and sewer, and would not be favorable to building.
Correct. And that's changed. And so the federal government, as you know, gave the county hundreds of millions of dollars to extend utilities. That's been done. You know all about that. We're not here to revisit the rezoning issue, but I want it to be clear, though, that restricted growth in the comprehensive plan does not mean you cannot build. You cannot build a subdivision as we have proposed. Elevation, they put some, pictures there, and they've shown you that the elevation here is higher than the elevation over there. Can you go back, please? What they don't show you, for example, is this is almost like a berm and it's lower on this side, but they don't show that because it looks better to say that it's deep and it's a hole and it's a bowl. Well, if you could not redo the land and make it into something that can be a subdivision, and we would not be able to build on any place that has a hollow or a slough or a place that has hills. That's what people do in construction. They go ahead and they reshape the land, and they have to reshape it in ways to go ahead and make the drainage work. And we have to do that because the DEQ says that they have to approve the plan. And Miss Jackie has to approve the plan as well. So all of that's yet to be done. But at some point, somebody tells me this is beautiful out here, and I think it is beautiful. But there's nothing that says you can't go ahead and take something that has been a dirt pit and turn it into something that is going to be a better thing for the county. And what does the county need right now? Housing. We have to have housing. We're going to have to continue because people are moving here in droves, and we have a need for it. So this is surrounded by the park, the forest out there. This is not surrounded by a lot of homes. There are people out there. The people that are living out there, we're going to protect with using a buffer. And we're going to have the 30-foot buffer on the east side, as we talked about. They also wanted us to have a fence along the commercial side. We're willing to put that in there as well. That was the Planning Commission recommendation. So, I guess.
The entranceway.
Pardon me?
The entranceway.
Yes. So, generally, when you're doing a subdivision, you're trying to go ahead and take all the traffic and put it out on just a regular 2-lane road, and it has a certain capacity. In this particular area, Highway 67 was improved in such a way that it can take thousands of vehicles. I mean, what better place to put a subdivision than next to a major 4-lane highway? It has an access point. We have the preliminary approval through the MDOT to be able to use that access point. We're going to have another access point back to the road behind. So we have the access that we need both to the back road and the front. You know, everybody, I think, would like for life to continue in a certain way. They'd like for their lives to continue the way that they thought it was going to be, but we are changing in this county. The county itself is no longer rural in a lot of places. It's more suburban. And as it's suburban, and that's because you put those utilities out there, there are going to be changes. And would you want to go ahead and have a subdivision that would have these types of amenities and these types of property values? Or would you rather it go ahead and go back into a place where it's going to look like this for another 10 or 15 years? Or maybe someone will come in and say, I'll put a 230 cookie cutter subdivision out there, but I won't put all those amenities. And it'll be these lower value homes. What is the better thing for Harrison County? What's the better thing for you as supervisors to do? You know, as you say to yourself, I'm moving on, what do you want your legacy to be?
What's the average price of those houses? What are they gonna sell for?
Average price, can I defer that to the builder?
Yeah.
I don't want to state that number.
Ballpark, I mean, we talking about
Stated it
I'm not
before.
building.
400 grand or?
I want it to
What was
come
the
from,
question? What is the average pricing of the homes?
The average will start in mid-200s to high 200s and go up to 450 for the price. So it'll be,
I'm sorry, could you put your name for the record?
Yes, sir.
State your name.
Tom Poulos.
Mr. Poulos with G.R. Horton, who is the developer.
I was helping the court reporter out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I told her I would.
Right. So, let me just say this. How much time do I have left?
Renee,
2 minutes.
Thank you.
2:43.
And that's the second 10 minutes or total
Second.
30 minutes?
That's
So
the
it's 10
second,
more
you got
minutes.
another 10
Yes, sir.
minutes.
All right.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to take all that time, but really what I want to say is this, is that if you want to go ahead and take it and look at it and say in a static way, this is what you got and it's a problem. Sure, it's a problem. It's a problem in the sense that there probably are some things buried out there that have to be excavated, taken out. There will be soil compaction tests. There will be soil borings done. There will be all kinds of engineering put into the ultimate product that's going to be out there in the area. But I can assure you, no one is going to allow someone to build on, not the county engineering office and certainly not the DEQ. They're not going to let you build on top of a landfill. And if there's something that was put out there, it's going to have to be removed. There's no doubt about it. You know, people have brought up about the gopher tortoise, which I'm not even sure is on the endangered list anymore, but regardless, we have to go through a process through the Fish and Wildlife Services and environmental. There's a whole group of steps we have to go through to protect and relocate or mitigate all of that. I don't want to say it's outside of your purview because everything's within your purview, but it's not something that you have to deal with. There's a federal agency and a state agency that's going to make sure that we follow all the rules. Just like we had to get a wetlands delineation to figure out where the wetlands are, what we have to mitigate. So I know this much. This project is big. This project has been talked about more than any project I've been involved in. And I've been before you, as you well know, for many subdivisions. And this one has been torn apart, put back together multiple times in an effort to try to meet all of your concerns. Now, can we go ahead and meet all the concerns of all the surrounding neighbors? No. And I've never been able to do that. But I do think that, like a lot of things, once this is built, you're going to see something that will be a good testament to what you want to see in Harrison County for years to come. So I would ask you to go ahead and let's move this county forward as we have been doing. Let's go ahead and create some places for people to have nice, good housing. And it's in the county. It's probably at some point going to be moved up into the city as all things seems to happen, because it's not that far away, as you know. But for right now, this is a good property to build upon. It's got all the things that you want to see when you're looking at a proposed site. So I would request that you go ahead and approve the conditional use with all the conditions that you mentioned to make sure that You know, everybody knows what they have to do and they have to follow the rules.
Mr.
Okay.
Jones, by
Yes.
my calculations, this is around a $220 million project, is that correct?
It is a very expensive project. I don't know that I can tie it to that number, but nevertheless.
I just took the average price of the house, 250 times
Right.
868.
If you take the, if you use that number, then yes. But if you go ahead and just take our economic development study that we did to show how much revenue is going to come to the county in property taxes, it will probably fund everything that the school system is going to need out there. And if there has to be more sheriff's deputies, and as you know, they're already planning to do another fire station out that way. So there's nothing that is not being talked about and planned for this and other development in these areas. I mean, let's face it, you know, when they built 67 and redid it, a lot of things opened up for development out there that didn't exist before. Y'all remember what it looked like before 67 was expanded. Now we have it, we're gonna have development. And it's already out there, just a little bit down the road, it's coming. Thank you.
Renee, how much time do they have back?
9 minutes.
9 minutes total.
Okay, Bobby Heinrich, 1806 23rd Avenue. I wanted to mention one of the other things on your list there about the amenities. That will be done in phase 1. Remember that conversation. So I just wanted to make sure that, you know, that was on the list. And give me 1 of my minutes.
Okay, go ahead, do it, 8 minutes. Can I speak?
I'd like to just defer this to Mr. Polis.
Okay.
Can
No, no, sir. Renee, how much time does he have?
8 minutes and 14 seconds.
How much time?
They got 3 people that can speak for 10 minutes.
I'll be quick.
Give your name and address for your record. 1, 2, 3, you're the final speaker.
My name's Tom Poulos. I gave you my business card. I live in Gulf Shores, Alabama, 16868 Tristan Lane, Gulf Shores, Alabama. My position is regional land manager for D.R. Horton. I think it's important first to tell you a little bit of it, that D.R. Horton is obviously a big national company. We're the nation's largest home builder. We'll do 80,000 homes this year. You don't do that if you don't do something right. But the key to our success is that our company is built up of divisions. There's a division in Biloxi that manages the Mississippi coast. We just opened up a division in Jackson. Okay, that division is looked at like a local home building company. The division president all has the authority basically to do what they need to do. Our construction people, our superintendent has almost as much authority as the division president. The reason you do that is that you got to get things done and they do the right thing all the time. So that's who you're talking about. You're talking about a local business here. We have over 80 employees, an annual payroll of over $1 million, not counting the hundreds of trades and people that also have jobs based on the community, based on the homes that we built. And I use the word homes. Do you remember the first time, your first home? Do you remember when you got that? Okay? It was something special, and that's what we do. We build homes for people. I've seen many different closings, and I watch young couples walk out of the closing, and they probably bought our entry-level product, and they're going to go home and they're going to paint that baby's room, or that retiree that's going to go in and buy the home and has got that extra bedroom for their in-laws, whatever. But Horton is very proud of what we do. This project will be one of the most outstanding residential community on the Mississippi coast. It will be something that you can all be proud of. Timing, this project will take 8 to 10 years to build out. It'll be done in succession, and it will be a first-class product. And I will say that is that the one advantage that we have is we have the financial resources to put something like this together. It takes a huge amount of money to invest in this. I don't know that these people are, the economy is good. The demand is still here. The demand has not slowed down. This is still a place that people want to live. I can't help that. I can't help that this community is built on Christian basics that give it a good place to live. That's why people want to live here. That's why people are moving from other parts of the country to get away from all of that. So give us a chance to invest in the community and be the good neighbors that you need to have to get the growth, to get the rooftops, to get the homes built that your children, that these children can have a place, a safe place to live, a safe place to play, and a place to work. That's where these people are coming back. I've been asked, who are buying these homes? I've had board members, I've had the building department. Who's buying these homes? It's a vast array. A lot of them are, we have retired military. People that came through Keesler, saw that never been here before, looked at it and said it's a great place. You have retirement, they want to come back. We have military moving back in here. They're coming in. The service industry here is huge. Those people are coming in. We have a lot of other people who are tired with the non-desirable environments that they're living in the other cities and moving and want this kind of life to live, this kind of area to live in. So there's all kinds of people. The growth is happening. The demand is here. It's not going to slow down. We've had glitches in the economic turndown. We had COVID, and everything, building stopped. That stopped as far as creating inventory, creating demand. But guess what? It didn't stop making babies, and it kept. And the growth of the populations have increased. So I ask you to look at this favorably. Not for D.R. Horton. We're the business partner that's going to make this work. But do it for your community. Do it for the hundreds of families that need a home to live. And do it with a partner that has a financial wherewithal to make that happen. And a team of people and employees and vendors and construction people and trades that can make that happen. That's hundreds of millions of dollars worth of economic impact on you. So that's what I would ask you to give that a favorable consideration. We will do everything that you expect us to do. But give us some time to figure it out. This is a complex development, and we have the wherewithal to do that. If you don't have that in this economy, we have the ability and the money to spend this just to get it to a point from an engineering standpoint. You're talking about $600,000-$700,000 just in that due diligence aspect of it that we'll be putting on this. Put it all together. At the end of the day, when we go to the final approval, it has to be in those plans or you don't approve it. It's just that simple. So everything that we're saying is, you want us to put it in writing, give us a chance to build it out. You can look at it for final approval for development. They're there. If you don't like it, don't approve it.
Take about 1 minute, 11 seconds.
I
Go
got
ahead.
about 10 seconds. I just wanted to clarify, Bobby Heinrich, 1806 23rd Avenue, Gulfport. I wanted to clarify the 5 years versus the 8 to 10. I mean, take them 8 to 10 years to build this thing out, but after 5 years, we need to come back through here and make sure everything's on the even keel. Is that fair?
That's the question I
Okay.
have. Okay, Anyone else for the applicant? About out of time? Go ahead.
Comment on his even kill. That's not a good legal term. He's gonna come back, and he's got a conditional use permit. At the end of 5 years, he's gonna come back. Permit's gonna be reviewed as to whether or not it continues or ceases based on whether or not y'all complied with the conditions that are gonna be set by the board, if any.
Go ahead.
Rebuttal.
Oh,
Oh.
You got
Yeah,
anything?
they should have 2 minutes left for rebuttal.
Oh, no,
Yeah, but
they've
I
got
would-
5 minutes.
I would like the attorneys to sit down and look at all these and make
Once y'all
sure,
get to a decision.
clean it up and.
Okay, Eric, how much rebuttal time we have? Is it 5 or 10? 5 minutes. Okay, who's gonna speak?
I'm gonna start.
Thank
The
you.
right thing
Nice
all the
starter.
time. Walt Warren, 18215 Fairway View Drive. That's really the right thing all the time. How much did you say those houses would be? What did you say the range of those houses would be?
That they'll sell for?
Yes, sir.
Probably in the high 200s to the 500,000.
Okay, in the economic plan you did, it's 275 to 370K, okay? And that's the last thing they submitted on that. So that doesn't parallel, that doesn't jive.
What did you say?
On their submission of the Patriot Ridge economic plan, they cite, and there's a, get that slide up if you want to.
Being low on your estimate's not a bad thing.
Well, but we were told other things in the meeting besides that.
That's fine.
And I want to bring up this deal about the zoning commission. It's almost as if Mr. Mayo never existed and he was an invisible man. He was not, and he was there. He said, like I said, I have pictures. He told them, he told Bonk, he told the commission, he told the applicants. He also said, well, I would like to show y'all some pictures, if I could. Mr. Gillespie, do you have those on paper? Do you have them here? Yes, I can do that. They ask about emailing. Everything that you're showing them to be in the record is what they asked for. Have you reported this to the DEQ for the dirt operation? He asked Mayo. Mayo responds, they got permits for a dirt pit. So Bonk, your employee, is asking a citizen what permits they have for that dirt pit.
Excellent.
Well, I know, but he was your employee at the time, and he's asking a citizen about permits. And that's not who ought to answer that.
But Walt, take this off this time if you stop. My concern about the dirt pit issues, that's pre-existing, and I'm trying to get you to focus on the issues, because the dirt pit issue pre-exists their ownership of the property. Whoever this did, I'm not sure who it is, I hope it's not one of my clients. But the dirt pit issue, they're stuck with whatever the conditions are out there that they have to fix to make the subdivision work. They can't build houses on top of trash, because then eventually the trash is gonna rot and the houses are gonna sink in. And so they have to address that, or they're gonna be in serious problem quickly. So that doesn't really have, my point is, what does that have to do with the?
I can tell you what it has to
Okay,
do with it.
that's-
It has to do with it because they're alleging that the photographs and the video that were shown were not part of the record. They were made part of the record, and they also not only made part of the record, they discussed with Mr. Mayo other things about that site out there.
There's enough in the record for me as an attorney for the board to say that became part of the record. Whether the photographs are actually there or not,
Good.
we'll have to figure that out. But it certainly was discussed enough in the transcript to be part of the record. So now you can start his time again.
Go ahead.
Okay. Couple other things that I would mention. He brought up the new family who bought the new home and how happy they were when they painted the baby's room and all that. I want you to realize they need to pull the correct elevations on this property and realize that if a large rain event occurs, which we have down here, we hadn't had this summer, but we have them, you could have some major issues. The other thing that I'm telling you could be an issue is with sewage and pump stations pumping it out 80 to 90 feet up to the road. If you have a loss of power and a backup pump or generator is not in use, that family with that baby room painted, crap flows downhill. And I'm just telling you, that's what happens. So that's something that needs to be looked at. That's huge, and that could be a major disaster. Anything you want to add?
I did, can we go back to the other PowerPoint? Actually, I'm sorry about that.
You got 2 minutes and 13
Yes, ma'am.
seconds.
I did want to state that, I just want to ask what kind of precedent we're setting. Mr. Heinrich was stating that the issues that we had to do with zoning that came prior. It's not. This is a conditional use permit. They are false statements that are made on the existing permit that sits before you. What precedent are we setting if we allow developers who want to push something through just to make a statement that is false concerning the growth sector, concerning the urban limits region, and then just simply to push it through later? Aren't we inviting them to make these kinds of statements, and then if it goes through, great if we get called on a well? So we just ask that you have a certain measure, like that we consider ethics in this situation as well. For instance, 1404.03.03, it should be noted the areas within the urban limits region as identified by Government Regional Planning Commission. This is not in the urban limits region, yet it states that it is. So this is a false statement on a special conditions use. Now I can understand that from a layman, but I would assume that he would know where to find the urban limits region. I would assume Mr. Heinrich would know where to find that information. And again, this is a special conditions permit.
Where did you find it?
I had to go find it myself on the website.
Where did you find it?
This comes from the website, from the Government Regional Planning Commission website. This is all new to me. I have no experience in this, so it took great effort for us to figure that out. Also in the comprehensive plan, he states that this is in the controlled growth sector. It's not, it's in the restricted growth sector. Not an inch of this is in that. This has
Explain that,
he did, but he stated it on the special conditions use permit that sits before you. So it's a false statement that's on the special conditions permit. So no matter what goes forward today.
I'm sorry, it always bothers me when people accuse people of saying false things. Stop.
Okay.
Because my daddy always told me never call people liars. You can say they're mistaken.
Okay, I apologize. We'll go back to saying mistaken. I just assume that there's an understanding there.
Wait a minute, the purple area along the edge of the roadway is what you're talking about?
No, sir, no, sir. We're talking about right here. So this right here, this property right here is in gray.
Hold on.
It's right, I'm sorry, it's right here. This purple area is just the roadway. This is Highway 67.
Go back.
So this area right here, the point that he was trying to make, and I think that maybe where if you really wanted to stretch, you could say that they own a piece of property across the road that is in yellow, and you could say that that piece of property is in the
The
controlled
yellow
growth
is in the
sector.
growth sector.
Yes, sir. However, if we go to one of the artifacts that they submitted to the board, it clearly says not a part. Clearly states not a part.
I see.
So we see that as an intent to mislead. And so
Okay,
no matter where
start
this
the
goes.
clock.
Why is that
Thank you.
significant?
That's
We feel
okay.
it's-
He's gonna wrap up.
Okay, I'm sorry, well, I'm gonna wrap up. So we feel that's significant just because as a community, we're trying to understand what's happening. We're trying to figure out, we're going back and looking, and that seems dishonest to us because these are statements that are made in a permit that are false. They got it pushed through zoning under 212 homes. Now we're up to 1,142 homes. The community would have been present in numbers had they known that. So we feel somewhat misled. And then when these statements are allowed to be made into the special use permit and they're not true, that also seems further misleading.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much. No, go ahead, Eric. We're done with the hearing.
I think
Here we are.
we've probably heard enough. I'm gonna, just real quick. This is what they're getting the conditional use on, this plan.
Correct, 868.
860.
Right.
And
Okay.
if I go back to the beginning of his, that dirt pit is just a starting point. Those elevations are not gonna stay those elevations, because they're gonna have to go in, they're gonna have to engineer it to meet Jackie's requirements. They're gonna have to grade it off where it drains, has a positive drainage flow to wherever the engineer decides that it's gonna go. So the elevations, they're not
That's what
just.
they are currently.
That's what they are currently. They're not, and with big sites like this, you're gonna get them, they're gonna come in and they're gonna terrace things and they're gonna make them flow. They're gonna make them flow to meet the engineer standards, which they haven't done the full engineering yet. This is just a conditional use for the concept of the project.
Okay, thank you.
Oh,
Supervisor Walker.
Another thing, do you have that shows the debris or the aerials?
I do, I think we've seen enough of it though. And they're gonna, if there's any debris
You
buried
had a
there.
progression
as they
you had a progression of
Yeah, if you
four.
want me to pop that up?
Yeah, if
Okay.
you can, I mean, if it's not too much, if the board doesn't mind.
You want me to do it? I can. This is not real fun. floodplain. It's quick. It cycles about every 4 seconds.
Okay,
So
explain.
this is 04,
Mhm,
05.
mhm.
Shows the progression of the dirt pit over the years.
Okay.
06. 07. 7 again. 2011. 12. 13. 15. 16. 17. 19. 22. And that's February of 23. So there was a lot of digging, a lot of dirt. It did not appear to me that there was a substantial area of the dirt pit that had been backfilled and with a huge amount. If there was any debris there, I couldn't see it on there, so.
Okay, having heard both sides, what is the pleasure of the board?
I know that this is inconvenient. I know that this is inconvenient. Can you hear me now?
Just talk loud.
Anyway, I know that it's inconvenient, but I would like to table it for 1 week so that I can have all the answers to the questions that you all brought up and be thorough about that. And I'd also at this time like to ask that all our attorney, that the developer, have a meeting with all of these that I have concerned about and wish and put together.
Why can't you just write this down, have the attorney wordsmith it, and make it part of this conditional use permit?
That's what I want to do, but I also want to get the question answered.
Make sure she's got it covered, so if you want to table it till Monday, then we can have
Well, I'm
it.
gonna do it
But I
one
don't see
week.
Another meeting's gonna work, so. Is that a
You
motion?
gonna be there?
Is that a motion?
Yeah, that's a motion to table for 1 week, and I hate to have y'all come back, I'm sorry, but I want to find out the answers to all of your questions, all of the questions you had, and I want to make sure that
Include
I
these.
have cleaned up all of the,
So we have a motion to table for
Statements.
1 week, which will be Monday, next Monday.
Can I ask a question?
um,
So you're not talking about reopening this record? In other words, it's
No, the
closed
ruling
today
is tabled until
only
Monday.
tabled till.
to allow y'all to discuss it?
Till
All right.
Monday. So we have a
Not gonna hear from
motion.
everybody, us or
But
them?
you're not
We
gonna-
have a motion and a second, there won't be another hearing, this is strictly the ruling is being tabled.
All right.
Make sure we get the record clear. You can't, we're not going to discuss it. You're tabling it so you can get the legal
Correct.
done by Monday, so you
Okay.
can make your ruling
Discussion.
on Monday.
No meetings, none of that,
Can't
strictly the
discuss it anymore.
wordsmith it.
The record's the record.
Correct, so we have a motion and a second to table for the wordsmithing and to table the decision until Monday. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. So we will rule on this on Monday
In Biloxi?
in Biloxi. Yes, at 9:30. Is there any other business before the board?
No, oh, so we do that one too. I'm done.
Okay, if there's no other business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Will we receive notification of your
Got it.
placing time?
It will be Monday.
Sorry. Monday at 9:30, Biloxi Courthouse.
What time? At
9:30.
9:30, Biloxi.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by aye. Motion carries.
I think.
Yeah.
Falls under the general